Hey there, Mr. Sutton here with the IM3 Honors Chapter 1, Quiz 1, Extra Practice Number 3 Solutions on Graphical Analysis. For all of these problems, we have to figure out the domain, range, and intervals of increase and decrease for the given graph. So one thing we're going to want to keep in mind is whether the boundaries of this are included in the graph or not. And that's going to be based on whether we have something solid or dotted or dashed. So we'll go through these one at a time here. So for domain, what we're asking for every time we want domain is the x values that this graph is covering. So for example, here we see that we're going from the x value -3 to +2. And since we have solid dots there, those are both actually part of the graph. They're not just placeholder dots. So I'm going to write -3 with a bracket, because that's what we use when it's actually part of the solution, comma, +2 with another bracket. So this is saying essentially x is greater than or equal to -3 and less than or equal to +2. Now for range, we're basically doing the same kind of thing but with y values instead of x values. So I'm going from lowest to highest in that case. So for this one, the lowest we can go for y values is down here at, let's see here, this is -8, and it's a solid dot, so bracket -8. And then we're going all the way up here to -3, so comma bracket -3, because -3 also has solid dots. Now for intervals of increase and decrease, I'm going to use parentheses for all of that, because the turnaround spots, it's kind of tough to figure out whether those should be increasing, decreasing, or neither. And we're going to go for increase, we're looking for places that we're going up as we move to the right. For decrease, we're looking for places on the graph where we're going down as we move to the right. So I'll always do increase first. So it looks like we don't start moving up until we get to -1 here. So from -1 to +2. So -1 comma 2 parentheses is our increasing interval. Now for decreasing, that's the part that's going down. That's from -3 to -1. Here's the graph for our next problem. So for domain on this one, going from the left to the right, as I look to the left, we have an arrow. That means it's going forever. So for the left part of my domain, I need to put infinity. And infinity always gets a parentheses, negative infinity in this case because we're going left, always gets a parentheses because you can never actually get to infinity. It's not really part of the solution. It's just a direction, a thought. So we're going to do that, comma, and then the furthest right I can go is 5, and that's included, so 5 bracket. Now for the range, at the bottom here for the y values, we're at -6 with a bracket. And then this arrow is also going up in addition to going to the left. So even though this part of the graph stops, we have to check out all parts of the graph when we look at the range. Since one part keeps going, that means that we're going to have positive infinity with a parentheses for the other part of our range. Now for increasing, it looks like I'm going up between -2 and 1, so I'll put that in there. And then for decreasing, we're going from -infinity to -2. That's the first decreasing interval, so parentheses on both of those, -infinity, comma, -2. And it's not the only place we're decreasing. There's actually this place between 1 and +6. So I'm going to do a union symbol and then 1 comma +5 actually, not +6, +5. The union means both of these are included. For the domain on this one, on the far left we have -3, and that's going to be a parentheses because we have an open dot there. As I move to the right, I can make it all the way to -1 before I get a gap in the graph, so that's going to be -1 with a bracket. But there's more of the graph over here from 1 to 3. So those are going to both be brackets with a union symbol. So union bracket 1 comma bracket 3. Now for the range, how low can we go? We're down here at -5. So there's a bracket on that one because we have a solid dot. And as we're going up, we do have this open dot here. This would normally cause us to skip over that. However, we notice that there's a solid part of the graph that kind of holds that place. So we don't have to worry about that open dot. And this gap in the graph also doesn't affect us because there's no vertical gap. Everything is covered vertically between -5 and up here at +4. So we'll just do +4 bracket, and that's the range. For increase, we're increasing here between -3 and -1, and also here between +1 and +2. So we'll have a little union in there to hold all that together. For decreasing, we just have this one little sliver from +2 to +3. For number 4, for the domain on this one, on the far left we've got, let's see here, this appears to be -8, so bracket -8. And over here on the far right we have a 6, but there's an open dot, so parentheses on that. For the range, we're down here at -3 for the y values with a bracket because we have a solid dot, so -3, comma, we can make it all the way up here to +5 with another bracket. This open dot doesn't affect our range because we have a solid piece over here at that y value to kind of hold that spot in place there. Now for the increase, we're going from increasing from -8 to 0, both with parentheses if you like, and we're decreasing just from 0 all the way on over to 6. On this next one, for domain, we're going left forever and right forever, so we're going -infinity, comma, +infinity, parentheses with both. And the range is actually going down forever if you follow this arrow, and up forever if you follow this arrow. So all the y values are covered, all real numbers. So again, -infinity, comma, infinity with parentheses. For increasing, we're going up from -infinity to -2. And we're also going up from 3 to +infinity. So we need a union in there for all that. And then for the decrease, there's only one spot we're decreasing actually, from -2, comma, +3. On this next one, for the domain, we're going left and right forever with no gaps in between. So parentheses, -infinity, comma, +infinity. For the range, we're going down forever in both directions, so -infinity is the quote-unquote beginning of the range. But in terms of going up, we actually can't get any higher than this spot right here. This looks like +8, so that's going to be a bracket with an 8. For increasing, we're moving up and to the right as we go from -infinity to -3. We're also moving up in this little stretch between -1 and +2, so union -1, comma, +2. We're going down in a couple spots from -3 to -1, and also from 2, comma, +infinity. Number 7 is almost so easy it's hard. For the range, or for the domain rather, we're going left and right forever, so negative and +infinity. For the range, we're going down and up forever with no gaps in between, so -infinity, +infinity. For increasing, we're increasing from -infinity to +infinity. Decreasing is a little tricky. We're actually not decreasing anywhere. This thing is always increasing, so we would put none for decreasing. For number 8 on the domain, I'm going left and right forever, so negative to +infinity. For the range, we're going down forever, so -infinity, and we're stopping and turning around at +2 with a solid dot, so 2 bracket. For increasing, that's happening from -infinity to -3 right here, and now decreasing from -3 to +infinity. This last one's a little bit wild. So for the domain, we are on the far left at -8 with a parentheses because there's an open dot there. And this thing goes right forever with no gaps, so +infinity with a comma and a parentheses. For the range, we're going down forever over here, so -infinity for the bottom part of that. And although we do a whole bunch of ups and downs, we stop here at this open dot at 5. So that's going to be a comma 5 parentheses because it's an open dot. Now for increasing, lots of spots this is happening. We're going from -6 to -4 right there. Next, we're going from -2 to 0. There we go, -2 to 0. And we're also increasing from 3 to 5. And that's it for increasing. Decreasing, we're going from -8 down to -6, from -4 to -2, from 0 to 3, and finally from 5 all the way to infinity. So that's it for this extra practice on graphical analysis. Till next time, Mr. Sutton signing off.